From bizarre ancient Egyptian foods that are still edible today to mysterious pyramids, in today's video, we look at the worst things ever found inside Egyptian pyramids. Kicking off this video with the ship of Khufu. While exploring the Great Pyramid, the burial place of Pharaoh Khufu, archaeologists found a large chamber carved into the base of the Giza bedrock, and inside they uncovered some of the most fascinating ruins ever found in a pyramid. But it would take years of work to fully understand what they had found. It was a massive ship, almost 150 feet long and nearly 20 feet wide. Dated to around 4,500 years ago, it is the oldest boat ever discovered. But it was far from intact. It required a painstaking restoration by the Egyptian Department of Antiquities, which eventually reconstructed a full-sized replica. What they uncovered was magnificent, but also deeply mysterious. The boat was expertly crafted, so well built that engineers confirmed it could still float today. But it was missing something crucial: any means of operation. There was no rigging, no masts, and no deck for rowers to propel it forward. So what exactly was it meant to carry? The boat has earned the nickname the Solar Barge because it is believed to be largely ceremonial. It was likely placed in the pharaoh's tomb, not as a prized possession to be buried with him, but as an actual vehicle for his journey to the afterlife. Either way, the boat does not appear to have been used for practical purposes, although some evidence suggests it had been in the water before its burial, possibly as part of a funeral procession or other ceremonies. But up next we have the Great Menagerie. Egyptian pharaohs liked to take everything with them when they died, so all their possessions were placed in the tomb with them, even if that possession was still alive. So when a pharaoh was laid to rest and wanted good luck in the afterlife, he would often cover his bases by having the local wildlife laid to rest with him. This has led to some truly strange finds inside the pyramids. Birds are fairly common discoveries, particularly the sacred ibis, which was popular during the later days of Egypt. Dogs and jackals, which represented Anubis, the god of the afterlife, were commonly placed in coffins starting with the first dynasty. After all, you'd want the god who was guiding you to your reward to feel represented. But other, larger animals were present as well, including baboons and crocodiles, both of which had gods in their image. Whoever had the job of capturing and stuffing those two probably drew the short straw. Even bugs, like the sacred scarab, showed up in these massive tombs. But moving on, did you know that the Great Pyramids were not simply a burial chamber for the pharaohs? These tombs were fit for a king. You see, the tombs of pharaohs were commonly filled with foodstuffs, the kind you would pack if you wanted to make sure your beloved king wouldn't go hungry on his final journey. Most of the supplies were simple, natural foods, including grains like wheat and barley, fruits like figs, dates and grapes, packages of preserved meat, and even honey for dessert, along with wine in case the mummy wanted to get a little tipsy on the way out the door. It was a sumptuous feast, the kind any commoner of the era would have loved to get their hands on, and it all went to waste. After all, there wasn't anyone in the sealed room to eat it, right? And now it's all long rotted, right? Well, not exactly. While none of the food in the tombs should be consumed thousands of years later, most of it was built to last. Dry grain simply becomes brittle. Jerky is designed to have a long shelf life, though perhaps not this long, and perishable items like fish were carefully avoided. And then there's the wine, which benefits from aging, although anyone who cracked it open today would likely be in for an unpleasant surprise. The one exception? Honey has no expiration date and can last for thousands of years if kept sealed and free from microbes. So it's entirely possible that a pharaoh's honey could still be spread on some apples today, although no one knows if any archaeologists have been daring enough to put their stomachs on the line for science. But up next, we have one of the most disturbing things you'd expect to find in the Great Pyramids: guts. That's right. Well, the process of mummification wasn't pretty, and it certainly wasn't as simple as wrapping the body in bandages. The goal was to preserve the body for as long as possible, and to do that, they had to remove anything likely to rot. This meant extracting most of the organs, starting with the brain, followed by the intestines and other soft tissues. Once the organs were removed, the body was rinsed and deodorized with a spice mixture and then left to dehydrate before being prepared for long-term preservation. The organs would join the mummy in the burial chamber, but in a way that wouldn't ruin the aesthetic. They were placed in ornately decorated canopic jars, usually adorned with the face of a god. Sealed tightly and left undisturbed, the jars allowed the organs to decompose without leaking or damaging the rest of the chamber. Meanwhile, the body itself slowly desiccated, transforming into the carefully preserved mummy that would last for thousands of years. But what starts buried doesn't always stay buried. The canopic jars were eventually discovered and examined, likely making for a very bad day at the office for some archaeologists. But discovery requires taking risks, and opening the jars reveals fascinating insights for scientists. For one, the jars weren't just a random mix of decayed tissue. The organs had been carefully separated, with each major organ placed in its jar, often associated with a specific god. But up next, there was something eerie about the Great Pyramids that confused scientists' mysterious void. One of the eeriest parts of exploring a pyramid is the ambiguity. How do you make sense of something built thousands of years ago when the civilization that created it is long gone? Many elements of pyramid construction remain a mystery, but none more so than the void found within the Great Pyramid of Khufu, one of the largest and most famous pyramids ever built. In 2017, while mapping the pyramid using advanced scanning technology, researchers found nothing. A massive 100-foot space inside the structure. Another smaller void was also discovered, hinting that large sections of the pyramid remain unseen by human eyes, even after thousands of years. And scientists are still puzzled over it. The Great Pyramid has never been fully explored, and the actual burial chamber of Pharaoh Khufu has never been discovered. Some theorized that this massive hidden room could hold the key, but it appears so thoroughly sealed with no passageways in or out that it's likely to keep its secrets. Others speculate it may have been a construction staging area or simply a structural mistake. But one way or another, we're not likely to get answers anytime soon. Gaining access would require dismantling a significant portion of the pyramid, something no archaeologist is eager to do. But moving on, we have another mystery that scientists recently solved. The two pyramids of Ameny Qemau. Ameny Qemau was, by all accounts, a fairly forgettable pharaoh. He ruled for only 2 years during the 13th dynasty, and his name appears in only a few historical records, mainly on canopic jars. His reign was brief and his impact minimal, making him little more than a footnote in Egyptian history. Which is why it's so surprising that he has two pyramids bearing his name. One would make sense: pharaohs were entitled to grand burials. But why would such an unremarkable ruler have more pyramids to his name than some of Egypt's most legendary kings? As it turns out, because he wanted them. The two pyramids were discovered in Dashur, about 2,000 feet apart, the first being excavated in 1957. Inside, archaeologists uncovered most of the artifacts from Ameny Qemau's short reign. This pyramid provided the majority of what we know about the pharaoh today. But the second pyramid, that's where things got weird. When archaeologists examined it, they found artifacts that didn't seem to belong to Ameny Qemau at all. Among them was a box containing mummy wrappings with inscriptions that didn't match the pharaoh. The answer? A father's love. After much investigation, researchers determined that the remains in the second pyramid belonged to a woman named Hatshepsut, not the famous female pharaoh, but the daughter of Ameny Qemau. She never ruled, and history largely forgot her. But her father did not. It appears that after her death, Ameny Qemau took an already built pyramid, removed most of the artifacts belonging to its original occupant, and inscribed his own name on it, just so his daughter could be buried there. Now that's peak pushy soccer dad behavior, ancient Egypt style. But finally, we have the two mysterious mummies that frustrated researchers for 2 long decades. Found 400 kilometers south of Cairo, the pair rested side by side for 4,000 years. Named Khnumnakht and Necht Ankh, they were probably nobility, judging by their rich tombs. Each coffin also bore the female name Khnum-Ah. She was described as the mother of both men, who were born about 20 years apart. Well, that's all for this video. What do you think of these mysterious ancient Egyptian finds? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.